to the Author Spotlight series where we shine a light on some amazing authors and their amazing stories. Today I'm joined by Noelia, and she is a hybrid published author, and she's going to talk a little bit about her book and her publishing process. So welcome, Noelia.
Writing has always been my way of making sense of the world, if that makes any sense. And I like stories that explore growth, quiet strength, and love that unfolds slowly, let's say. And outside of teaching and writing, I love ballet, which I have just started, so I'm not very good at it. Yes. I would say first it's my debut book, and it's called Tale of Lilies. And I think it's what you get if you mixed Stardust, the movie, and The Hunger Games, and if they both had a slow burn YA romantic fantasy child. And it follows Delilah, a quiet girl from a fishing village, who wins a strange raffle and is thrown into a world of rebellion, forgotten magic. And she has to grow in ways she never expected to grow. And on her way, there's a slow building romance with someone who sees her as she truly is. So, yeah, I would say that's, in a few words, how I would describe the book.
That's amazing. So, what inspired the initial spark for this story? Was it the world, a character, or a single moment?
I would say what inspired me to start, like, there were two contradictory things, let's say. Firstly, I wanted to escape to a magical world where things like anything was possible. And then also my Islanda roots. Being from a small island, my people have always felt like an innate connection to nature that I think can be seen in the work of all the artists from the islands. And that is, I think that shows in the book my connection to nature and how where I come from affects my writing. And also, I'm a romantic at heart. So, long story short, I think I just try to combine both things.
Do you remember the moment Delaria's story truly came alive for you?
Yeah, actually, I do. The first time I really thought about Delilah was a long time ago, and she didn't have that name. I was actually on an Erasmus in Germany, and I was seeing like a real forest for the first time. For those who have never been to Lanzarote, my island is very dry, and we don't have any trees, only palm trees. And I remember I saw this big forest and I just thought of her and she came to life just like that.
That's beautiful. So, if you didn't start off with that name, what were you writing her under? Like, what was the pseudonym she was being written under before you settled on this name? And what was the process of you finding the right name for this character?
At the beginning, I gave them, all of them, like English names. Like her name was Jane.
Mhm.
And then as I wrote more and I started to know myself more as a writer, because it was my first book, so I was trying just to figure everything out. I decided that I wanted names that at least sounded Spanish or Canarian. For instance, her name, I don't really remember where I got it from, but I think it has Spanish roots. But the boy's name, Coran, his name is Canarian. It actually means, from the like Asian people that were here, it means
Mhm.
gold. So I really wanted to show my culture through their names as well, because I remember since most books that we read here are not really written by Spanish people, they're mostly translations. So you see like little or teenagers here that speak only Spanish, reading translations, and their names are so weird for them. Like Jane, my students would probably say Jane because they don't know how to read it. So I said, okay, I'm going to write in English, but I really want the names to be in Spanish. It felt like a personal thing. I don't know.
That's beautiful. So we're going to dive into the book The story begins with Delaria entering a life-changing raffle. What does the raffle symbolize for her personality and personally?
I think the raffle, it's mainly an excuse for her to escape. She has been drowning in that fishing village for years, and it's not only about the typical thing that I believe most of us can feel. It's relatable, wanted to escape or to go outside of your hometown and explore the world. I think that's something that really pushes her away, but it's also she's also feeling haunted by the memory of her younger sister who died a few years before. So I think the raffle, it's the excuse she needed, and also um, it's a way of not blaming it on herself. Like, okay, I applied for this, but I have to leave. I was chosen to do this. It's not my fault. You cannot tell me it's my fault. It's like a way of saying, okay, I have to go, so I'm going to go, but just because I have to.
So, the world you've built blends political intrigue with mythical magic. How did you approach balancing both elements?
So I've grown up reading dystopian books, as most of us, The Hunger Games, Divergent, all of those quite cool books. So I knew I wanted something dystopian, and I think there's nothing that drives a plot better than a government or royalty that are not fair to the people and are cruel. So I knew I wanted that. But at the same time, I really like fantasy, and um, I just try. You will be reading and you think, okay, this world is just your typical dystopian world. You have this royal regime that rule everything, and they're cruel. Actually, I hope it's not much of a spoiler, but the book starts with a hanging. So yeah, I think you can see how violent all this the system is, and why the people of this place might be feeling a bit of, um, and might be feeling uncomfortable and wanted to change things, or at least feeling resentment towards the ruling group. And also, I wanted magic, so I just tried to pull it in the surroundings, but without being too obvious. Like, for instance, you might find a normal place with no magic at all, and then you will hear about a bird that just disappears, or a weird feline that it does not exist in this world. And then the magical part comes a bit later in the book, so I don't want to say too much. But as I said before, it's very related to nature, because I feel that elemental magic is something that we can all feel connected to as human beings, because we are always drawn to nature, ocean, trees, fresh air. I think we can all feel connected to it, and it kind of makes sense. You can feel it in your flesh and bones.
Wow, that's really profound. So the phrase "a boy with caramel eyes" and a name as elusive as the wind is so poetic. Can you tell us more about the character and his role in Delaria's journey?
Yes, so as I think I said it before, Agoran, who is this boy with the changing name, he, I would say, is the representation of a civilization that was more connected to our planet. And I was thinking about the Aboriginal people of the islands here, but I think it can be said about like the Indians in America, or any people that were actually more linked to nature and appreciated it. I feel that nowadays we are a bit disconnected and we take the world for granted. So I think Agoran, I wanted him to represent that people, to be a reminder of a world where things were not as they are right now. And for the Lyra, he is actually the same. He is someone who has grown up with stories and can tell them in many ways, because I believe like I believe storytelling is crucial for the developing of a human being. And people say that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think he represents that he has been raised by a village who have talked about um, nature and how important this for us, how linked we are to us. Whereas Delilah has not. So for her, he is first of all that he opens this door for her, which I think was not opened before. And also, he is rebellion itself. I think he kind of breaks her structure. He takes her by the hand and puts her in situations where she actually is surprised that she is enjoying it, with very dangerous things. And she's like, wow, I feel alive. So I think he's just like a door for her to explore herself and to help her become something different.
Wow, that's really like amazing. You talk a little bit about ancient cultures. What kind of research did you do? You mentioned a bit about, the Native Americans from, America. Are there any other cultures that you dived into before you settled on the elements that you wanted to pull from different places and regions to build this distinctive culture and in your book?
Yeah, actually, to be honest, I mainly researched the one from the islands because it's the one from the Canary Islands. It's the one I
Yeah.
really grew up learning about. It's the one actually feel more connected to.
Yeah.
And I did some research on how they felt, how they lived, and some words from them are present in the book, like from because the language they used to use it's Amazigh, which is
Mhm.
now spoken in Northern Africa.
Yeah.
And other parts of Africa too. Sorry, it's quite
Yeah.
different the one in Northern Africa. So here
Mhm.
we don't talk in that language anymore. So
Mhm.
I did some research on certain words they use, not only names, but also like, for instance, I don't want to spoil anything, but the nickname that the male lead has for the protagonist is actually a word in that language.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so I feel like it kind of shows again that he is the representation of that people. He speaks that language. He remembers. He remembers what we have forgotten. And and yeah, that's honestly that's mainly I have not really done some research on the Native Americans, but because I was mainly inspired by the islands.
Oh, that's really like amazing that you're pulling from your culture and your history to write something that you're really passionate about and to tell a story that, you know, like people would really be really interested in. That's really like amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Repeat, please.
your book includes ancient powers and bedtime legends that blur into reality. Did you draw from any real world mythologies or folklore when writing these? So you mentioned a bit about like your culture and everything. So what was it like blending those into, your book and your writing?
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yes, now I understood. Um, I came up with all of them. I did not actually take any real story. I wanted them to have five goddesses that represented nature, and I took the main goddess. It's called Chasirasi, which is also an Canarian um, old goddess, right? So I also took it from the Canarian Aboriginal people. But the stories themselves, I came out with them. I wanted them to tell a specific things. So I believe I had to create them, and none of the others could actually say exactly what I wanted to say for the plot. You know what I mean? So
So
that,
yeah, what were you
yeah.
saying?
No, that's nothing. Yeah, continue.
So how does like love and loyalty drive the decisions that your characters make, especially when truth and deception become so intertwined in the storyline?
So I think love and loyalty are really what drives the main character. But it's not just love and loyalty for a boy, for instance. That's not what I meant when I wrote that. I think that Delilah, it's always drawn by her love for her people and for her family and for the people that surround her. She has a very kind soul, and loyalty. I think it's loyalty to her own ideas, because she has been living in this cruel regime for so long, and she has not done anything about it, and it has taken lives in front of her. It has caused her to suffer, and she has done nothing. So I think it's love for her own family, for her people, for her kingdom, that she takes, like, she makes the decisions that she makes, because the decisions that she makes are not easy. They're dangerous. She could be dead by morning if someone caught her, but she still did them. And of course, it's because it made her feel alive, but also because she was tired of just being standing by watching awful things happen. So she's very loyal to her own ideas from the moment she leaves the village, and she to her love for the people that surround her.
So regarding world building and themes, the line "Once upon a time when the sun was emerald" sets an ethereal tone. What kind of world did you want readers to imagine from the very beginning?
With that line, I really wanted it to feel magical. I wanted you to think about um, a world that was totally different from what it's nowadays. Because actually, when you start reading the book, the sun is not emerald. The sun is it's normal. But I wanted people to think, "Wow, there's something here. There's something happens before that we do not know." And it really it's so important that it's the beginning of every single tale. All tales in this book start like once upon a time when the sun was emerald and the moon its companion. So I really wanted to have this repetitive thing, so people would wonder, wow, where these people have history, something happened before. And actually it did happen. I have some things in mind about it, but they're not really that included in the book. But yeah, so I wanted people to wonder, I guess.
Wow, that's like the most exciting part about being a writer and an author, where you get to change the story, and you get to see what readers are really thinking. You might to see that. So that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted that, so I hope I got it.
So can you tell us more about the goddesses and their role in the world?
Yeah, so there are five goddesses. Four of them kind of just control different parts of nature. For instance, Dimera, goddess, it's the goddess of earth and forest. Badea, goddess of water and oceans, and it's the one that Delilah actually talks about more because she grew up in a fishing village. So it depends on where you grow up that you are more connected to one goddess or the other. Then we have Nusaris, who is the goddess of air and blizzard, and Kodia, the goddess of fire and lava. And then we have Chasirasi, which is like kind of the most important one. It's the mother nature, and it kind of rules over the goddesses as well. And I really needed these beings to exist, because I think that people need something to believe in, to be honest. And I felt that goddesses really are a very good device for magic and for to move people in general. I think to be honest, I'm not a very religious person, but I can see how religion actually moves everybody. So for me, it made sense that the elements were linked to being like heavens and important beings. But I also wanted to add that these beings, I think, are more, if I have to like compare them to gods in our world, I think they will be closer to Greek gods, because they are not these all good kind goddesses. They have human traits, you know. They can feel envy, they can feel anger, and that actually moves the plot a lot too. And I wanted them to be all women, because I feel women are very powerful, and I when I ambition a god, I just, it's a woman for sure.
How much of your world building was planned versus discovered during the writing process?
How much of the world was planned, or how much I discovered during? Okay, yeah. Um, Actually, I've changed, because before I was not like this. I used to be someone who just sat and wrote, and whatever came out, I was fine. But during this book, I realized that it didn't work. When I started, of course, when you start writing, you're feeling inspired, and you want to write and write and write, and you write a lot at the beginning. But then, for me at least, I just got stuck, because at some point I just didn't know where the story went. I knew the beginning, I knew the end, but I didn't know anything else. So I've realized that at some point in my writing, I always have to stop, get everything that I have, because the characters kind of build themselves, if that makes any sense. So whenever when I have the characters, and I have their vibe and their personality, that's when I sit down and I actually outline the major events that are going to occur in the plot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get from point A to point B to point C. You need to kind of know what you're doing. At least me, I know every writer is different.
Actually quite interesting that you'd say that, because I've talked to a lot of writers, and everybody has like a different writing process and writing role that they take on. When you first started writing, did what were there different types of methods that you tried that didn't really work out for you? I know like a lot of people, how often do you find plotting like helpful for you, or do you trance, and what kind of tools do you use that help you not only navigate the world building that you're writing about, but also the characters and everything that you're using to compile this book?
So I've tried, as I said, just writing everything, and I know, and I think this is the thing that I feel like worse about, is that I see on social media writers that write every single day and they never fail. They're just like, okay, even if it's 5 words, you have to write. I don't do that. I have a full-time job, and it's very difficult to do that. And I kind of I wanted to do that at the beginning, and I felt very guilty every single day that I couldn't write anything, because I was tired and I was not focused, I was not inspired. And I think art for art, you have to be inspired and you have to have energy to do it. So instead of just trying to force myself to just write every single day, what I did is just let myself write whenever I really felt like it. I can sit there and just write like a few chapters from like just one sitting and doing it, and one sitting. Um, but then there might be weeks where I don't write anything, and I think that the kind of like letting myself do it has helped me a lot to produce even more than I did before. And also, as I said before, I didn't plan anything. I used to just sit there and see where it took me, and that was a disaster, and it didn't work out. So I learned to at least outline what I wanted. And also, something that I've learned during this process is that sometimes I just need to stop producing and start, um, you know, reading. Start
Okay.
reading, because I sometimes I need to start consuming too, because if you're only writing all the time, you need to also be inspired by your fellow authors. So whenever I feel stuck and I just really I'm tired of writing and I feel I'm not doing what I really want, I just stop. I take some books that I really want to read, that even if they're not my genre. Sometimes I read a romance, like exclusively romance, when it's really not what I write, and I take it and I enjoy it and I feel connected to writing again. So I'm not going to advise, but if I had to give one, like, I would say, please take your time to also consume literature, not just produce it. And if you don't want to produce, it's okay. You can do it later.
That's like really good advice because writing is a very solitary endeavor. So if you're only stuck in your bubble, it'll be hard to kind of navigate other things and feed in other things into your story versus you going out there and consuming other things and being inspired more.
Yeah, yeah, I also think that. So I hope they do, because it's also, I feel it's very demanding. Nowadays, we are on social media and we see so many people doing the same thing as we do. It's
Yeah.
very easy to feel bad about what you're doing. I think it's not fair. Please appreciate what you do and your work.
So how do you deal with things like writer's block or, just getting your word count together? Because I know, like, for me, if I have writer's block, I I can't write anything. Like, no matter what I do, I literally can't write. It's lasted for like 3 months before. And I also know, like, for me, when I'm like writing specific, political systems or, monarchies or specific things that are going on in the story, these elements that I'm not really, what is it? I'm not really familiar with, like how to write tension, how, the royal families, um, how the royal family is structured, how the political system is structured. How do you go about tackling like those very important details that feed through into the story that, kind of shape where the main character is going through the story and what the reader is going to follow?
Sometimes, yeah, it happened to me when I'm describing sword fighting. I think that's what you're kind of saying, that
Yeah,
things that we don't know about and we have to pretend
yeah,
we know.
yeah,
I just, to feel confident about it. I First of all, if I don't feel like doing it, I'm not doing it. As I said, because if I'm stuck in that and I'm not feeling it, I just stop.
yeah.
Wait for a while to see, a few days, if I'm actually okay. It comes to me like, okay, I have to do this, otherwise I will not progress in my book. But what I do is actually do a lot of research to feel confident about it. And because if I do not feel confident, I just read it and think, wow, this is horrible. And people are going to know I don't know anything about this. When people actually, I've noticed that many times when I'm a reader, I don't really pay that much attention to sword fighting or to, as you said, like the dynamics of monarchy. I don't pay attention to if they're saying Your Highness or Your Majesty and if that's correct. Um, but as a writer, you have to be sure. So I just do a lot of research to feel confident enough, and I just write what I'm sure about. I never write things I'm not really sure, and which is quite difficult right now. I'm writing a pirates book, and I don't know how to sail, so it's being a ride.
Yeah. That's amazing. Um, so did you work with a developmental editor or a beta reader early on? And was that experience, how was that experience for you?
I didn't work with a developmental editor, because it was too expensive. And my beta reader was my best friend, Andrea. She reads the genre and she just supports me in everything I do. and she loved the story. So I gave it to her, and she would read it and tell me what she thought and things that did not really sit well with her, and I tried to make it better. The only edition I actually went through was a copy editor almost at the end, and she really helped me a lot with this typical things that you do not realize, such as, okay, why are you saying that he is like his arms are up? Obviously they're up. He's doing this. And I remember one comment that she wrote, like, what it was, of course his arms are glued to his body, of course it's good. And I was like, yeah, okay. Or for instance, these stupid things like, why is she holding the cup right now if she let it on the table? She left it on the table before. These
Yeah.
little things, I think it are the most common mistakes we do because we are so focused on the important thing of the scene that we totally forget about these little things. So I think it's very important to have someone, at least like through the final, when you're almost at the end of the journey of your manuscript, to look at it and see, okay, this is wrong, change it.
There any feedback you've got back from, say, like your friend Andrea, that shocked you in a sense that maybe that's not what you intended to write across when you were writing the story or that particular chapter, and you were like, you didn't, the reader didn't process it the way that you wrote it down and intended it to be, meant? Is there something that they've read that you've been like, that's kind of like shocked you a bit? And also, is there something that you've written where they've told you, maybe you need to take this out, and you've been like really heartbroken about parting ways with that specific thing? And how did you part with it or not?
Yeah, actually, I've had like those comments. Like, for instance, my mom, she read a very early version of this book when it was written. Because at the beginning, I wrote in Spanish, which was a total failure. But when I wrote the first draft, I gave it to her, and she told me, "Oh, I'm sure this character knows something. I'm sure she's into something. She's obvious. It's very obvious." And I was thinking, no. I actually I'm not intending that to happen. And sometimes my friend Andrea also suspected from one character, like, I'm sure this person is going to be at the end doing blah blah blah. And I was like, no. So that that actually makes me feel good because I feel like, okay, these characters are so alive that
Yeah.
the people that read them actually can see even more than me. They can get them, like, they can know them more than me. So I actually felt good.
Oh,
And
that's great.
yeah, and when it comes to the thing that I had to take out, I did have to take out a lot of the first chapter because the I wrote it, and then when I read it again, it was too dense and for the beginning of the book, and it was hard to take out because I had worked so much into it, but I just felt it did not really. When sometimes I've realized, and this is important, I think that many times we write too much because we as authors need that information. And then
Mm,
when we are editing the book is when we realize, okay, I needed that information, the reader does not need it. So
mm,
I had to take a lot. Actually, the book started being like 133,000 words, and now it's
mm.
like 120,000 words. Like, I had to
Yeah.
take out a lot. And now that we're talking about readers' comments, I have one comment that really it's a review on Goodreads, and I found it so
Mhm.
funny. A
Yeah.
girl said that the Dalaida and Akoran, like the main characters of the book, reminds her a lot of the fox and the bunny from Zootopia.
Huh?
Which now that I saw it, I can't unsee it. She's so right.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic. And speaking about readers, have readers reached out to, share their thoughts and their reactions that stood out to you apart from that?
To be honest, it's been out for not that long. It's not even a month. it got published, released on the 28th of April. So sadly, I haven't got that many people who have read it and actually reached out. But the people who I know, which I don't know if they're reliable or not, have while they were reading it, they have been telling me how it's going, and that helped me a lot to feel better, because when I published it, I was feeling so unsure, because I think when you are self-publishing, or like hybrid publishing as I did, which is very similar, to be honest, in this sense, you do feel like, okay, I am the only one believing in this project. Because you don't have anyone like backing you up, yeah, okay, if they believed in this, so it's okay. When you are self-publishing, you're so sure about your work, like, you're okay, this is good, I have to publish it. But then when you do publish it, you're like, okay, what if I'm wrong? So having yeah, so
It's
having
very exposing.
yeah. So having people telling me, "Oh wow, this is so good. I love it. I read it in 2 days," even if they know me, I'm like, okay. So if she, at least if she read it in 2 days, it cannot be bad. Because even if you know me, I don't know. I don't think anyone likes me that much to read a book in 2 days and without liking it. So
It's a good sign that they read it in 2 days and they love it.
I was very happy. I was like, yeah, thank you, I guess.
Yeah, and speaking of when you were writing and when you're going through that whole writing process, is there a character that you wrote, say like a character that you started off with, that when you were writing the story, you kind of, there was another character that surprised you, or there was something about that character that surprised you that kind of shifted the narrative a little bit?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. When I was writing the male lead, Agoran, at the beginning, I thought he would be much more superficial, because of course, when I'm writing in the first person, I'm always in the main character's head. So for me, she's very profound and has very complicated thoughts. But for with him, I at the beginning thought like he was much more like just a jokester, and he would not really have that much depth. But when I started developing the romance, I thought, okay, it's he started just to be very deep and have this. He was very he understood her perfectly, let's say. He respected her, like her boundaries a lot. He always asked her everything. And I know it's weird to talk like this because I wrote him, but I did feel like it was the character who was actually doing all of this. And I remember something that really, really struck me, and I think this was the first time that I felt, okay, stories do write themselves. Was when I was writing one scene, and I was not really expecting or planning anything romantic to happen in the scene. Like, they were bonding, but it was not really romantic. And all of a sudden, the vibe changed, and they
Uh-huh.
kissed. They kissed,
Oh
and I was like, why did I write this? And I didn't want to write this. And then I just had to deal with it. I remember telling my friend, yes, I think they'll have to deal with this because I don't know how. And I had to like kind of work around it. But I was very
wow.
surprised, like, wow, it is true. Like, stories do write themselves when you're writing them. And I thought that was a lie, but it turns out it's not.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I guess like that adds to like when the readers are like reading it, they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much chemistry, and it's like you didn't intend for it to happen, but it just naturally progressed that way, which is like fantastic.
I did feel like they are real, so that was good. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, speaking about your hybrid publishing journey, what led you to take this path instead of going, fully traditional or fully indie?
So I did try traditional publishing, but
Mm-hmm.
the book was too big. sadly, it was too big. I feel like agents and publishers, if the book of a debut author is bigger than 90,000 words, they usually do not want to take the risk because they don't know you, they don't know if it's going to work out, and it's just too much of a financial risk, which I kind of understand, but it was such a bummer. Like I was so sad about it because I did try to sell it to different agents, and they didn't even ask for a manuscript. So nobody really read it, and I was like, you have not given me a chance. So I did feel very down about it. And then I decided, okay, now I can do it. I was at a financial moment in my life where I could do it. I had the money, so I said, okay, I'm going to self-publish it.
Yeah.
But I was really scared. I did feel that if I did it on my own without knowing anything, because I didn't know anything about the like literature industry and like the publishing industry, sorry. So I was like, what if I mess it up and I ruin my book's chances? And this is my dream we're talking about. Like I could not
Yeah.
risk it. I was very scared of like just messing it up. So I learned about hybrid publishing, which is basically, I think, as far as I understand, it's basically self-publishing, but someone with the advantages of having a publisher and knowing things. So you do pay as well for everything, but you also pay for their knowledge and their contacts and everything they know. So they've done this before, they're not going to mess it up as you would maybe. So I that's why I chose hybrid publishing, and I did feel much more um secure, and I was not that scared about the journey. And it was good to have someone to just ask things, and they answered. So it was nice. It was like having someone supporting you.
That's great. So, how involved were you in the marketing, cover design, and the production decision regarding, the book?
I was involved in everything. I would say I made all the decisions, which is something that I really liked because I the book turned out to be exactly what I envisioned. I remember they do have the publishers that I worked with. They do have a designer that worked on a cover, and unfortunately I didn't like it. It was not what I was thinking. So I said, okay, I'm going to look for someone else. Please do not feel offended. I really like your
Yeah.
work, but it's not for me. So
Yeah.
they let me look for another person, another designer that did the book the cover as I wanted it, and also the illustrations that are inside. They're external. They're local artists.
Mhm.
And the chapters have an illustration made by me, so it did feel like I was doing everything, and they let me have my ideas, and I drove them insane just asking things like, can I put this, can I do that? And they were like, okay, yes, do whatever you want as long as it works, it's okay. So I did feel that it was a lot of work, but the book ended up being exactly what I wanted it to be, so I'm very satisfied with it.
That's amazing. Seeing your vision come to life into this tangible thing that you can hold in your hands and that you can share with people and people are receiving it. It's like amazing because you put a bit of yourself in that story.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's great to have that control. I think you wouldn't have that in traditional publishing. So they have traditional publishing has advantages and disadvantages. So it's worth looking at all of them, I guess.
Yeah. So were there like any challenges, that you faced going through this process that you wish you'd known about before?
Um, yes, I think I wish I had known how everything worked, to be honest, because I was so lost, and that made me so anxious not knowing. I'm a very controlling person. I think I like to have everything under control, and
Mhm.
the journey was very stressful for me, and it took away a bit of the happiness of being published, to be honest, because I wanted everything to be perfect, and just didn't know what were the steps, what are we doing, and yeah, it has taken me like it's almost a month since it was published, and it is now that I'm finally letting myself be happy about it,
Yeah,
and I'm focusing more into marketing the book, because as without publisher putting your books into libraries, into bookstores and stuff, you have to do most of the marketing, and I'm very thankful to have social media to do it. So I'm now focusing on like posting and being active and just trying to put myself out there, which at the beginning was very scary, and put my book, of
yeah,
course, out there. The beginning was awful. I didn't want people to see me. But then once you start and you say, okay, this is for my dream, this is for my work. I've put so much work into it. It deserves to be promoted. So it actually, you kind of, at the end, you like it. You like creating content, and you like putting it up and see what people think. So that's something unexpected that I'm enjoying a lot.
Oh, that's amazing. And I can resonate with that. Like when you write a book, you think that, that's where it ends. Like you give it to somebody, it's published, and that's it. But there's so much that goes into it. And as an author, if you're not advocating for your book, then nobody is, kind of thing. So it's good to see like you grew with it. And as somebody who has like anxiety, when I started like doing this, I was very like stressed out, but now it's just like I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy, just talking about my book and talking about, publishing and informing others, and you grow, I guess. And it's like nice to see that with your dream you grow with your dream.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, I couldn't have said it better. You grow with your dream, exactly, and you're a bigger person in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any advice for any other authors who are considering, taking this publishing route?
I would say please look at all the options available and choose one that you trust and you feel comfortable with. Because I feel that not mine, fortunately, but other hybrid publishers, I think, take advantage of authors, and just like you have to pay crazy prices for things that really shouldn't be that expensive. So please look at everything before you choose and ask as many questions as you want. You are paying. Please don't be shy, because sometimes we don't want to um, trouble others. No, travel them. Ask if you don't know. Ask, and please know your journey and know what's going to happen with your book, so you are prepared for it. So yeah, that's what I would say. Please don't be afraid to ask, because sometimes as writers we are like, no, I don't want to ask anybody, or we are like introverts. Not my case, but I've seen many people. Please do not. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. So, what's one message or feeling you hope readers walk away with after finishing the book?
What feelings I wish they or I think they'll get after finishing.
Yeah. What's the one thing and one message? What's one feeling and one message you hope readers take away from the book after they finish?
Okay, so the feeling I want them to feel, I think, is freedom. I believe I want them to feel free, to feel like they just got into a ride and it ended up being, I don't know, everything they wanted, like feeling free. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I think that's what I think they would feel after it. And a message, I would say that it would be that there's always a space for kindness, even if the world is cruel.
Oh, that's amazing. So we're gonna play some, optional games here. So, a goddess, a rebel, and a precocious princess walk into a tavern. Who causes the most trouble?
A goddess, a rebel, and a princess.
Yeah, walk into a tavern. Who causes the most trouble?
The princess for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, princes are crazy. They just they are very entitled. So I think the princess would just get there and be like, "Hey, why are you not looking at me when I got in? Like, I'm the princess." And everyone would be like scared to get found out, and the goddess would just be there, chilling, feeling confident. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you think?
I can see it. Probably the princess, yeah. So, what's a line or quote from the book that stayed with you the longest?
I think I don't remember it clearly, but it would be um you don't know what it's like when the worst thing they can do to you is not to kill you. It's not killing you, sorry. It's not killing you. And it was in a scene where it as I know it's kind of like very sad, sorry. But it did stay with me when I wrote it because I was like, yeah, that I feel that it was like related. It was Delilah telling it to a Quran, and she was talking about women in general and how you have no idea what it's like to be this vulnerable, and that killing you is not the worst thing they can do. So it really stayed with me, even if it's yeah, I don't know. I wrote it and I felt it in my bones.
Wow. So, if your book were a song, what would its playlist be?
If my book was a song, sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah. Yeah, if your book was a song, what would its playlist be?
What would its playlist be?
Yeah.
Um, mm, POV. You're a small town girl, causing trouble in the big town or in the big town or something like that. Like a sort of rom-com vibe, but like uh scary. I don't know.
So the story, is it over? Is there going to be a follow-up, or what happens next for you as a writer and for the story?
The book really the ends. It's definitely it's open for a sequel, and it I think it's a story of its own, but it's open for a sequel. So I think it will come, but not for the moment because I think I need this let the story rest. I need to rest on the story. I think it's been a lot of work on it, and I really feel like writing something else. So yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm writing another book, YA as well, romantic fantasy, and this one is about pirates. So wish me luck, but I'm very happy with it. I'm very excited to write it and to meet new characters. But yeah, I think it will come in the future. I will write the second one.
Oh, that's amazing. So where can our listeners and viewers find you?
They can find me on TikTok and Instagram by author Noelia. Quite simple. Just all together, author Noelia. And I tend
Mhm.
to post a lot. As I said, I'm very into it. So please go find me and follow.
So thank you very much for sitting down with us today, and we wish you the best of luck on your writing journey, and congratulations on being a published author.
Thank you very much. And you've been amazing. Thank you for your time and all your questions. It really felt like you really wanted to know. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.